What is manifesting? That's exactly what we're talking about today. You're listening to Ariana Rollins, and this is Mindful Manifesting. But before we dive into that, if you would like a short meditation and a quick little exercise to start to kickstart and expand into what it is you'd like to create, be, do, and experience, go to Mindful Achiever and you can get Kickstart Your Manifesting Journey completely for free. All right. This is something that I have struggled with, this term, manifesting, for a very long time. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed that the world can take a word and use it in different contexts and confuse it, pollute it, distort the meaning of it. Now, okay, ready for this word. God. It brings up all sorts of notions, all sorts of different understandings and beliefs, what God is, what God isn't. And people who are teachers, they can feel nervous about using a word like that because it's going to bring up all sorts of distortions. All right, ready for this? I originally wrote my book called Mindful Achiever Now, but the title was The Manifesting Guide. And I kid you not, it was about a month before publication, and I woke up, I said, no, I can't call it Manifesting Guide because there's too many misconceptions around what people think manifesting is. There's The Secret, there's What the Bleep, there's all of these, I would say, kind of magic beans, quick fix promises out there that, oh, you do this, you're going to get that. And that's not how I see manifesting. So I thought, why not record a podcast on how I see manifesting? All right. So this actually comes from the very last thing that I wrote to include in the book, Mindful Achiever, How to Lead Your Unconscious Mind to Personal Growth and Success. And you can get that on Amazon. This is in the epilogue. Okay. So I have learned in this work that having the correct notion, the correct definition of a word can make a big difference. What I do when I'm working with clients, if they're looking to increase their revenue, the verb that they use around that, increase, generate, have, make, earn, that verb is really important because there is a definition that we have, a feeling we have around that word, like earn, right? Oh gosh, earn, that means I'm going to a job. Or receive, oh, receive sounds easy. You're starting to get, that's why etymology, I think that's the word, that means, love of words, or a study of words. So let's get into manifesting. Okay, so I believe there's a higher purpose to learning, and I do say learning, manifesting. It's a science. It really is. So it's multifold. Couple things come to mind is that manifesting is commanding matter and freeing ourselves from our past. Well, you don't hear most people teaching manifesting as freeing ourselves from our past, but freedom is everything. Freedom of expression, freedom to have the resources to do, be, and what you want to be and experience what you want, right? So the first purpose, as I see it, is get to learn how to command matter. And from an early age, I knew the power of the human mind profoundly impacts the quality of our health and our well-being. And as I witnessed my parents in their later years, not even that late, you guys, my mother in her 60s died, my father early 70s died, and as I witnessed my parents' health choices, ended up getting cancer, high blood pressure, stroke. They gave control to the medical field and dying young, because seriously, 62, 63, that's young, right? And I watched this, and it motivated me, observing this, to not follow my parents' genetic blueprint. I intuitively knew my mind could help me maintain a vibrant, healthy body as I age. And over the years, I observed this. I observed that, my health is a little different than other people's. I have more comfort in my body, more energy. I'm not on any pharmaceutical drugs. And I would observe this. And I started to get evidence that my mind, or let's use a great term, mindset, I had set my mind to something, and it was playing out. It was condensing into physical reality, my body. I was commanding my body, the health and well-being. Okay. So over the years, I started to see signs of blood pressure. Went to the dentist, and it was higher than I thought it would be. I was like, whoa, this is different. And so, again, with my mindset, I thought maybe I could normalize it. And so I did research, and I identified things that could help. I didn't settle, okay? And it's absolutely okay if one chooses that their right path is taking blood pressure medication. Absolutely perfect, because that may be their highest choice. But I researched, and I found things that would support my body. Now, we can use manifesting techniques to work with our body's natural ability for good health at any age. Simply put, we can command matter. I remember there were several times when I was going through a difficult time in my life that I would get a migraine, and I would tune in, and I would ask the migraine directly, what are you trying to tell me? What's the message? And often, not all the time, but often the migraine would disappear. I got the message and I took action on it. That's what I mean about commanding matter. That's what I mean about manifesting. All right, let's keep going. So a second purpose I see for learning why to learn manifesting at the higher level is to free ourselves from our past. Every experience we've had that's disappointed us, that's hurt us, has potent emotions. And for most of us, unresolved feelings. And these buried emotions, unresolved feelings, can change and degrade our health and well-being. They can even warp our personalities or cause us to never grow beyond that mindset, that disempowered mindset, that feeling of, they did that to me. She did that to me. That job did that to me. A form of, and this, I do not mean this to be a mean kind of crushing episode, not by any means. I mean it to be empowering, to give you the tools and resources to make the changes. But I notice sometimes I fall into it, kind of a victim consciousness that the world has more power than me, that I can't change my circumstances. And I know that I can. I know. I've witnessed it. I've had so much evidence I can't even begin to share with you. So if we have these buried emotions, the unresolved feelings, they can warp our personalities. And as I mentioned, it's like we get stuck at a certain age. I don't know if you've ever met somebody. They seem to be very fixed in the past. They keep telling the story of what happened to them and why they are the way they are. I've done it. I've witnessed it myself. And I've done it myself. Getting better at it, though. So you may have met someone where that traumatic event in their childhood, they can't get beyond it. It's like that's the reason why I am that way. And interestingly enough, my friends, I've had this view ever since I was a little one. And I started to notice as I was studying Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I was like, oh my gosh, he's got the same view. Isn't that cool? And this is where I know his work and my work really aligns. So personal growth and empowerment go hand in hand with learning how to manifest. As infants, we come into the human body and we truly are helpless. It's not just feel helpless. We are. We can't even lift our heads. We don't have the strength, let alone walk across the room and get what we want. So if we don't learn a way to get our needs met efficiently and from our own inner resources as a baby, right? We're trained. We have to. We can develop a sense of dependency and helplessness on the outside world to meet our needs. And that can continue into adulthood. That sense of the world, again, has more power than us. The boss has more power. The clients have more power. The internet, it's flooded with small businesses, online businesses, coaches. It has more power. No, it doesn't. Your mindset has more power. How you have set your mind. And your mind gets set by anything, unresolved emotions, buried feelings, things like that. So as we progress with the principles of manifesting, our efforts are more efficient, our thinking is more clear, our well-being is greater, and we notice, we can consciously influence our outside world without physically doing anything. So to me, that's astounding. I call those synchronistic moments just what I was looking for. Just what I wanted, right? So making empowering choices rather than being directed, influenced, or even controlled by our history. So by teaching manifesting in the way that I do, I feel really good about empowering others to use their thoughts and emotions to influence their outside world instead of the tail of the dog wagging the dog, right? That instead of our environment influencing our thinking and feeling and our results, we, through our mind, through our emotions, through setting our mind on where we want to go and what we want to do, we become the overriding power in our environment. We influence our environment. I'm not talking about controlling others. No. Everybody has their free will and free right. Everybody has a choice to think and feel as they wish. So, let me see where I want to go. Just a minute. See, I'm kind of picking and choosing bits from the book, the epilogue, and then evolving and adding to this. All right. So you may have seen people who are really good at influencing others. Let us say they manipulate. Let us say they can use the training of NLP to their personal purposes. That's not what I'm talking about at all. When people try to manipulate and serve personal agendas, those are going down the bar. If we think about manifesting as accessing a part of divinity, we think it and we cause it. You'll rarely hear me quote something from the Bible, but we have read stories of Jesus turning water into wine, loaves of bread into fishes. We've heard these stories. Is it possible? Well, he was a pretty evolved human being. Some people would say maybe he's not even human. I don't know. I think that's possible too. We can evolve beyond that, our capacity and our powers. And we have such inherent strength and capability that's really beyond the scope of a 17-minute podcast episode. It's hard to even transfer to you from my depth of being how true that is. So looking at, we've been manipulated, the advertising industry. Some people teach NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to sell products and services. Psychology is used in military operations to control people. We can learn lessons and find profound examples from witnessing other people's struggles. And especially witnessing people, how easily they are taken in, how easily they are sold. That used to be me, my friends. I'm much better now, choosing rather than being sold. And we can witness really sad examples of people who don't seem to be able to discern whether something's good for them or not good for them. They can get easily sold, manipulated by the outside world. I'll give an example. This is a really sad one. So my father was born during World War II in London. And to protect the children from bombing, you already know this, I'm sure, parents put them on trains to live in the countryside with certain families who would host them. Well, as a child, my father didn't understand why he was being forced to live with strangers. He felt abandoned, and the event traumatized him, no question, for life. I heard the stories regularly. And I would recall, looking back, he was always searching for the next new program, book, healing technique to help him release his past, release his trauma, so he could finally feel secure and loved in his relationships. He was afraid of being abandoned. Yes, he gained from all of it. He grew, but unfortunately the changes weren't lasting. And watching him create these workarounds because he ended up getting divorced from my mother. My mother ended the marriage. Very sad. Anyway, but watching him over the many years create these workarounds by dating someone he didn't deeply love, he wasn't connected to, but this woman would not abandon him. It was so sad, because his choices for his current life was being influenced by those early experiences. We've all had them, right? So I was super motivated, as I am when I care about someone, to find a solution for my father and for people like him who couldn't move past a situation. And as a result, because of this passion, trying to find ways to free people from their limiting experiences, from those stuck emotions, I discovered something pretty profound. And I became determined and dedicated to learn it, to be as good as possible so I could share it with others, to free themselves, to manifest from thought alone, to accomplish things that they felt were nearly impossible. And that was in 2004, where I found this oddly titled book, How to Get Lots of Money for Anything Fast. A friend gave it to me. If you've been listening to the podcast at all, you've heard this story before. I'll say it briefly. He gave it to me because I was in the process of a divorce and I was going to be a single mom. I needed a way to make a living. So I get this big hefty ebook. It's 300 pages. Didn't want to read it. Didn't like the title. Didn't like the zooming bucket of gold, across the cover. I thought it was obnoxious. Well, he called me nearly every day for 3 months. Finally, I read it just to get him off my back. And in the first few pages, I had this deep, profound awareness. This is what I've been looking for. This is how I can help free myself of a painful marriage, free myself from my own limiting past experiences, and help teach others how they can free themselves. So, long story short, I bugged the author of that book to teach me how to do it, and he created a program, and I became licensed to teach these techniques. So they go beyond manifesting. Manifesting is like preschool. It's not even kindergarten. And what I've come to know, and applying these techniques, teaching these techniques, and all of my own learned experience, this is like manifesting at a PhD level. It's profound of how you can learn techniques and make any change that you want in your life, with a caveat that it's for your highest and best good at this time. So manifesting isn't magic beans. Manifesting isn't quick fix. Manifesting is, wrapping back up to the very beginning, it is a way to free ourselves from our past and command matter. I'm going to do another podcast specifically on this cybernetic transposition. What a terrible term, because it's really significant as a technique to create what you want and make a life as you want it to be. All right. Thanks so much for listening to the episode, to the podcast. And if you would like to kickstart your manifesting journey and get a little guided meditation and a worksheet, go to mindfulachiever.com. It'll be in the show notes too. Sending you off with so much love and appreciation. And remember, as you confirm yourself, you chart your own path to success. So much love. Bye for now.